To hear the Minister get up and talk about all the things she was proud of. I wonder how proud she is of the Building Act 1991, which actually created the problem of leaky buildings by deregulating the building industry. Oh no, it did. By deregulating the building industry and allowing the cowboys to take charge. And if those schools were leaking, it'd be interesting to see how many of them were built in that immediate period after the National Party put in place the 1991 Building Act. And she also talked a little bit about empty schools. Well, I'll tell you that there's one time of the day now where there are a lot of empty schools around New Zealand, and that's the evening when there were, well, that would have been when there were night classes being held around New Zealand. But unfortunately in this appropriation, and indeed in last year's appropriation, there is now a reduction in funding for adult and community education in night schools. Mr Quinn interjects very loudly. Mr Quinn, how many schools in the Hutt Valley, where you allegedly try to represent people, how many schools are offering night classes this year in the Hutt Valley? How many? I'll tell you, Mr Quinn, zero. Absolutely none, because that member's government cut the funding. So Mr Quinn can interject all he likes, but in the Hutt Valley, the people he says he represents, no night classes this year as a result of a funding cut. Mr Chair, it was interesting in the House today to hear the Prime Minister give his comments on the interest-free student loan scheme, because what the Prime Minister said today was instructive. He said he has no intention of getting rid of the interest-free student loan scheme. Presumably this is a similar kind of intention to having no intention to mine national parks. Oh no, we're not sure, maybe we will, we'll think about it in the future. Maybe. And so a decisive statement from the Prime Minister today, no intention to get rid of the interest-free student loan scheme, except here he is talking to Victoria University students yesterday, saying that the scheme is a disaster, economically it doesn't really stack up, there's got to be a better way of doing it. Well, if he really believes that, Mr Chair, why doesn't he do something about it? Why doesn't he actually put in front of the public the policy that he believes in? Those members across the House there don't believe in interest-free student loans. I know Chris Finlayson doesn't believe in interest-free student loans, because I've listened to the member on many occasions. That government does not believe in interest-free student loans, but it does not have the courage of its convictions, Mr Chair, to stand up with a different policy. But that's what the Prime Minister actually wants. And we have a lot of proof of what the Prime Minister thinks about this, because in this House, on the 16th of November 2005, here's what John Key actually said about the interest-free student loan scheme. What a cost to the country. What an unaffordable and irresponsible cost to the country. It's a sad day. And then Mr Key went on to say, national members will be opposing this with every bone in our bodies. Every bone in our bodies. Well, there's not a lot of backbone being shown here by Mr Key, because if he really does believe that interest-free student loans are such a cost on this country, why won't he have the courage of his convictions to actually put that in front of the public? The problem, Mr Chair, with the National Party's approach to tertiary education is they simply see it as a sector to take money from rather than a sector to invest in for the good of all New Zealanders and for our future. And I think it's very important to note, Mr Chair, that this appropriation for education covers the period in which a fundamental change will take place in universities. People who have university entrance next year will be denied entry to university. That is a major change, and the government is standing there, Mr Joyce, like a bystander at a car accident, doing absolutely nothing but expressing his concern and kicking the tyres. That's all Mr Joyce is prepared to do, while thousands of New Zealanders will not be able to go on to university next year. And if they go to a polytech, they'll struggle to get into a lot of those, because tens of millions of dollars has been taken out of the polytechnic sector as well. Tertiary education should be the engine room of this economy. It should be part of the plan if the National Party had a plan, but it is not. Tens of millions of dollars out of the tertiary sector, cuts to adult and community education, cuts to university funding, and now a tax on the student loan scheme as well. It's quite clear that this government isn't interested in catching up with Australia. They have no plan to catch up with Australia, because if they did, it would be a plan that would involve at least investing a fraction of what the Australians are, and that is not what this government has done. We will fall further and further behind Australia if this government is not prepared to invest in tertiary education.
Right, before I put the vote, If members are not sitting in their own seats, their interjections will indeed be rare and reasonable. Thank you. Order. Order. Right. We now have an amendment in the name of Trevor Mallard to change vote education. The question is the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. No. Noes have it? Party vote. Clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
58 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
43 votes in favour.
Green Party.
9 votes in favour.
Act New Zealand.
5 votes opposed.
Māori Party.
5 votes opposed.
Progressive.
1 vote in favour.
United Future.
1 vote opposed.
Ayes of 53, noes are 69. The amendment is not agreed to. The question now is that vote education stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote arts, culture and heritage stand part of the schedule. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got ahead of myself. My apologies. Right, yes, I'll send that. Apologies to the House. The question now is that vote education review office stand part of the schedule. No member seeking the call. The question then is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that vote arts, culture and heritage stand part of the schedule. And if no member is seeking the call, the question is that the motion